back on drive time, folks. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? All right, let's get this camera lined up. Let's get this stream going. All right, this is the 23rd of June, ladies and gentlemen. Battle again, folks, with the drive time streams here. Just a second while I get this thing adjusted so it doesn't fall down. All right, so this is Joe Imbriano, your host, coming to you live from the streets of Orange County, California. Today is Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021. And we're going to talk to you tonight about the masking of children inside the mind control prisons called schools. Now, if you have children and you live in California, and by golly, folks, I would imagine other places as well. I'm not sure on other state laws. Your children, K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade, masks in school. Masks all day in the classroom, over the nose, over the mouth. Masks all day on the playground unless they're engaged in physical activity, over the nose, over the mouth. Masks all day, even at the lunch table, except between bites. Now, wait a minute. Espera un momentito. ¿Qué está pasando aquí? Ellos nos dijeron que solamente iba a ocupar 2 semanas de la máscara. ¿Qué pasó a las 2 semanas? Aquí estamos más que un año después. Aquí estamos con las máscaras todavía, después de casi 70% de la población recibió los vacunas. ¿Cuál es el problema con las mentes de la gente, huh? You know, folks, here we are. They told us this was going to be 2 weeks, right? It was going to be 2 weeks of masks and 2 weeks closing things down. And here we are over a year later with over 70% of the population that's been injected, and we're still wearing masks, right? I want to know what these schools have done to your brains. ¿Qué están haciendo en las clases a sus mentes? This is ridiculous, folks. I mean, seriously, what have they done to the minds of the masses? What are they doing inside those classrooms? Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone, right? They're just another brick in the wall. Well, let me tell you something, folks. Everything that's going on right now literally defies logic, okay? Because, you know, I remember when I was told, oh my gosh, we've got this wax dummy in the White House telling everybody, please, 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 just get vaccinated, right? Oh, just get vaccinated. And then this voice comes on NPR, and they talk to you in this really soft voice and telling you how, you know, just do your part, cozy up to the solution, don't fight it, it's futile, and take one for the team, right? But yet, they've got these children now. They've got these children that are going to be forced to wear masks all day long, as they're being forced to learn a bunch of garbage called Common Core, a bunch of brain-damaging mathematics, a bunch of bogus science, a bunch of revisionist history, a bunch of social studies that are nothing but lies, a bunch of Marxist ideological garbage, a bunch of subversive subterfuge, and they got to sit there with their mouth and their nose covered up with a graphene nanofiber distributing system. Well, I guess those graphene oxide nanofibers in those blue masks, I guess they'll react real well with the 28 gigahertz frequencies, right? You know, folks, I don't know what else to say except I think that the world has not gone mad. I think they've just turned everybody into morons. Now, the guy that runs the Fullerton School District High School, the Fullerton Joint Union High School District, this guy's name is Scott Scambray, right? And he took over as superintendent. I think he's making about $250,000 a year. And he's about to go retire and collect his pension. But he's the guy that put the Wi-Fi systems in the schools. He installed all of the high-powered ruckus access points in the classrooms throughout the entire Fullerton Joint Union High School District. And he's the guy that put out the letter to the parents today about how everybody's got to put masks on their children. He's the guy that was at the graduation ceremony and he shook, hundreds of students' hands with a mask. Right? And then, folks, this guy has an education doctorate, right? He's got an EDD. And, I don't know what EDD stands for in your book, but, this is what happens when you pay people hush money and you pay them handsomely to do whatever they're told. And this guy has sold his soul. Forget about the, my son was telling me about some of the stuff that, the Shakespeare, having sex with a minor, commit suicide literature, the death education, the moral relativism, all of this garbage that they teach in these classrooms, right? I mean, my son, he just turn the computer on and, rig all his assignments and just watch movies and read the books I gave him. He got through it smarter than, right? And while I had him on home study, he's in the back room with a big weight set, getting ripped and, eating a bunch of eggs and steak. And all these kids are in the classrooms with masks on under the Wi-Fi router, getting bloody noses with their oxygen cut off. You're going to send your children into that? Really? Keep your children home, folks. Put them on home study. Get the Wi-Fi out of your house. Don't stick your child's exhaust pipe into their nose. Do not make your children inhale the exhalation products of aerobic respiration, namely carbon dioxide and water vapors. You see, folks, there's a reason why your nose isn't connected to your mouth. Okay? You don't eat through your nose, you don't drink through your ear, and you don't inhale through your a-hole, and you don't cover up your nose and your mouth unless you want to get sick. These masks don't stop anything, okay, except the proper off-gassing of your respiratory system and the proper intake. And it's amazing, the high school chemistry that's taught, when you understand the slightest variations in the pressures of air and water vapor and carbon dioxide gas have a tremendous impact on your body's ability to uptake oxygen and diffuse waste products through the respiratory system. And any high school chemistry student would understand all this Pascal's law stuff. And what's really sickening, folks, is that everything that these people parade around with their letters after their last name, and they're all proud of their 4.5 GPA report cards, and they can't think, they have no common sense. Wait a minute, folks. I thought after they vaccinated you, you were protected. And I thought people that got vaccinated couldn't get sick from this thing. And I thought that once you got vaccinated, you couldn't give it to anybody. So how come, whether or not you're vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask in a classroom? Why? Because Simon says that's why, right? And so you've got these school administrators that do whatever they're told. So when Project Inkwell was rolled out, about 10 years ago, that the last end connection for internet broadband had to be wireless, what did the superintendents do with it? What my next door neighbor do? He had people at his house promoting how wireless from the Fullerton Disinformer, right? And he did everything he could to lobby the school officials to put Wi-Fi in the elementary schools and the high schools. Nice job, neighbor. Well, you will be rewarded for your accomplishments, as you are as we speak. So, when people go along with the weaponization programs, and they just collect their check and think that they're doing what they're supposed to do, I have news for you. You will pay dearly, because God will punish you. Because here is the big deal, folks. It would be better for a millstone to be hung around your neck and cast into the depths of the sea than to harm one of these little ones, right? Can you imagine when, being 5 years old, walking around seeing everybody with masks on, and then you turn on the news and all you see are pictures of people getting injected and people wearing blue plastic suits with these gas masks and ambulances going back and forth and bodies burning, right? Can you imagine growing up through your formative years and not seeing people smile, not seeing their faces? Can you imagine growing up and going to school? It was stuffy enough in those classrooms. Now they're going to make you cover up your nose and mouth. Can you imagine what it must be like to go to school, and then when you can't breathe, this teacher tells you got to put that back on or they're going to send you to the principal's office? Can you imagine? Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen? What are we doing to these children? Why are we looking the other way? Why are you doing what you're told at the administrative level when none of it makes any sense? I'll tell you why. Because you're a coward. Because you're a coward. Now, I will tell you, you go to Revelation 21:8, it's the lake of fire, and there is a pecking order as to who gets thrown in first, and guess who's at the front of the line? The cowards. So, I used to stand on the sidewalk in front of the high schools and the elementary schools and get the cops called on me. And it's amazing, you degenerate pieces of trash that call the police on me. You firemen and you police and you PTA moms who think it's funny. When I was out there holding up this 8-foot by 4-foot banner, and sometimes by myself, that said, what are the implications of wireless technology in the classrooms? Cancer? Infertility? ADHD? And then period, implying even now that we have kinds of illness. And for those of you who doubt me, if you don't think electromagnetic emissions are weaponized, just ask the people that lived in the Havana embassy. Just ask the people who lived at the Moscow embassy. And you'll understand what microwave sickness is. And you can watch the most important video in the world by Joe Imbriano, and you can see what happened to the children in the classrooms when they were under the power of these, they were under the spell of these electromagnetic weapons. And when we add the kicker, when we add the catalyst, if you will, when we put the vaccines in these children, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and he loseth his soul? There are going to be a lot of people working for the school district who are going to be asking themselves that question in the not so distant future. For remaining silent, making fun of, calling the police on, and harassing and aiming lasers at us as we're out on the sidewalk trying to warn the parents. And Troy High School is the biggest offender of them all because they have metal walls in the classrooms. They need to be remote controlled and have the broadcast at multiple frequencies. Can you imagine a bunch of masked up, vaccinated students? Did I mention that they've upgraded the air conditioning systems? They've put in bipolar ionization, reactive oxygen species, cold plasma, reactive oxygen species generating systems to sterilize the air. Can you imagine what's going to happen when you're in a classroom with sheet metal walls with this high-powered microwave weapon on the ceiling, 35 weapon Chromebooks or iPads on Wi-Fi mode, plus 35 cell phones of all the students who are on Wi-Fi mode, plus the sheet metal walls, plus the compact fluorescent lights, plus the weaponized air conditioning systems, plus the masks, and plus the vaccine components. What does that sound like, folks? Sounds like the classroom from hell, right? Well, you know, there are those people in my community that have made their bed and they're about to be laid down. Those of you who work at Troy High School, those of you who continue to ignore everything I say, I only can hope and pray that you don't fall victim to the very things that you failed to stop. And I strongly urge parents to wake up. Now, I know I watch these parents dump these children off at 6:45 in the morning. The children were half asleep. They purposely ignored everything I had to say. I'd stand out there with a 15, 20-foot pole with 20 placards on it and banners and warning the parents. The parents don't care. They want to push their kids into med school. They want to push their kids into the law school. They want to push their children into the medical field. They want to push their children off that cliff. They don't care what happens because they think that the only hope for their children is to be part of this system. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no hope for your children if they're part of this system. Do you understand me? Your children are doomed if you push them to become part of this system. You want to know why? Because the system destroys its own. Name one regime, name one criminal Banana Republic administration that doesn't end up literally devouring itself in the process of hanging on to its power. You really think, you know, it's amazing. Oh man, if I could just get them into med school. Oh, if they could just become a doctor. Oh, if they could just, you know, folks, when they lose all their social skills and they get sterilized by all the Wi-Fi and all the devices in their laps, and they get their brain shrunk with all the sleep deprivation and the Adderall and the coffee, and you know, and when they find out that they've indoctrinated and inculcated and inducted into this this necromancy cult called allopathic medicine, right? And when I say that it's a necromancy cult, it really is. Because, I mean, after all, they teach you that the petrochemical base of all of these allopathic pharmaceutical agents are petroleum. And they teach us that petroleum products are derived from the decomposition of dead animals and plants and people, right? So of course they use this sorcery in using the dead body parts as part of their operation, and they'll use aborted fetal tissue and, you know, cancer cell lines and, stem cell lines in their witches brew. But by and large, allopathic medicine is a necromancy cult, okay? And so you think your children are going to have a life field of study and a future in that study? Really? Your son's going to end up marrying a Stepford wife, living up in some house behind a gate that will be a house of horrors. Because, you won't be able to get pregnant because you've taken all of the things home with you that will keep you from getting pregnant. And you lose your mind, and along the way you lose your salvation, because you have to believe certain things that are wholly inconsistent with what Jesus taught, right? And loving your neighbor does not mean forcing them to take drugs and vaccines, okay? And loving your neighbor does not mean forcing them to be exposed to harmful levels of environmental toxins like radio frequency emissions. So, you guys and gals, you think you have your place in heaven secured. I got news for you. All right? You want to go along with all this, you're going to find out the hard way when the day comes, when you meet your maker, what he's going to do. You think he's going to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Come and inherit for you what has been prepared before the foundations of the earth were laid"? Or is he going to say, "Depart from me, you that work iniquity, for I never knew you"? You want to roll the dice on that one? Be my guest, folks. But in the meantime, open your eyes and look at the lies and look what's being done to your children, folks. And you got to ask yourself, is it really worth it to put my son or daughter through all these years of trauma-based? That's a question I have for all of you. And that's a question you need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself. And then you have to look into the eyes of your children before they develop blood clots playing video games with that Wi-Fi enabled device 2 inches away from their head, as they've just been given more injections and take more pain relievers to give them blood clots, right? I'm not even going to get into all the other stuff that's coming because I don't have enough time. And that's right, I am Jesuit trained, folks, because I went to a Catholic high school. That's right. And guess what? The Catholic religion is a satanic death cult of pedophilia. So there! Stick it! Where I went to school has only given me the ability to think and to speak and to read and to write and to study and to understand. And the University of Jesus Christ is where I'm truly trained in the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, not in some Jesuit high school or some Illuminati college that I went to before I became a Christian. All right? And so if you want to call me Jesuit trained, go right ahead. But I don't work for the Pope. The Pope belongs on a rope, and I'm not a Vatican assassin warlock like Charlie Sheen or Alex Jones or any of those guys, all right? So give it up. You could try to discredit one of the message and make fun of the fact that I don't ascribe to this criminal. Jesus is going to come back tomorrow and fix everything. And to give all your money to these holy rollers and expect them to solve problems as they put the Wi-Fi in even their churches, and put the cell towers on their churches, and put the masks on their congregants, and tell everybody to, here, come on into the parking lot and take these injections. And before you know it, they'll be telling you to pull into the parking lot and turn your guns in, because you're going to find out the hard way that your pastor's on the clergy response team, right? All right, folks. I'm going to cut this stream. We've reached the end of the line. I want you all to be safe and go in Jesus' name with wisdom and courage. The path is narrow. The road is straight that leads to life, folks. Wide is the path that leads to destruction, and many are on that path, folks. Don't be one of them. This is Joe Imbriano. Take care.